Hello everyone and welcome to a special live edition of the Driven by Us podcast. We are so excited to be here at the 2025 London E-Prix.
And even more excited to be joined by someone who is shaping motorsport, Raphaella Gordon-Saker, Social Impact Manager here at Formula E. Welcome, Raffy.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being here at the London E-Prix.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I'm always so curious how people end up with jobs as exciting as yours. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your role, how you got into it, and what you do day to day?
Yeah, so my role is really looking at the social impact strategy within the championship, and that sits within our broader sustainability strategy and I guess our purpose as a purpose-driven sport and an all-electric championship. So day to day, what that means is I'm looking at the entire suite of social impact programs that we have, spanning DE&I, education, philanthropy, and really thinking about how that can all join up to one cohesive theory of change, so the impact that we're creating is aligned and building up to something really tangible. It involves a lot of partnership management with community organizations like yourselves, but also with some of our corporate partners and sponsors, and then also storytelling, thinking about how we can tell the stories of the impact we're creating to life to hopefully inspire others. And I guess I took a little bit of an unconventional background into that because I'm not a motorsport person by trade. I did an arts degree, and then I worked in telecoms for a bit. So yeah, kind of accidentally fell into my current role.
Were there any sort of key turning points or experiences in your life that sort of has shaped the way that you, I guess, attack your job, for want of a better word, and that you create all of these programs?
Yeah, I guess I would say the way that I approach my work is very systems focused, but also considering the people that we're working with throughout. And I guess that kind of mindset came from the fact that when I was at school, I had a terrible final year of school. I really struggled with my mental health. And I think I realized firsthand that, perception of people's reality can actually enhance inequality and actually make things worse. So when I went to university, I studied feminist art theory quite a bit. And it really helped me join the dots between my own experience, but actually the critical thinking and systems in society that contribute to inequality and various issues that we have. And really kind of lit a spark about thinking about things really critically and thinking about why barriers exist and how you can dismantle them. And that really fundamentally shapes my mindset towards life and the way I work today. So quite logically and theoretical was something that can be quite emotive for many reasons. But it's, why I love what I do so much.
That's incredible. What an interesting journey that's led you to this point. Changing gears just a little bit, we're here at Formula E, and we know that we don't just race, but we also give back too. And you've worked with some amazing programs like the FIA Girls on Track, Better Future Funds, and Driving Force. Can you tell us a little bit about the goals of these programs and how you go about choosing which charities to work with?
Yeah, so FIA Girls on Track, it's probably our most established program, and it's always one of my favorite parts of race weeks when we see the young women coming into the activation space just there. It's just, such an incredible program. That is all about empowering the next generation of women into motorsport. So it's really focused on giving them access to role models, visibility of the opportunities, because there's so many diverse careers in motorsport that so many people don't even know exist. And showing them that this space is for them, they're welcome here, we want to have them here. So yeah, really incredible program. Driving Force is our sustainability and STEM education program. And again, it's all about making those topics really accessible to young people. So we go directly into schools. We create teacher lesson plans so teachers can touch upon these topics in a way that isn't typically taught. So using motorsport as a way to capture the attention of young people in topics that, they might not typically engage with. And then our Better Futures Fund is all about leaving a lasting legacy in the cities that we race in. So we don't want to just be here hosting a race, packing up and going. we really want to leave something tangible that is there for the communities to benefit from well beyond the race weekend. So we've actually got a double-decker bus right here in the fan village, which has been refurbished by an amazing organization called Change Please Foundation. And that bus, which used to be a double-decker bus out on the streets of London, is now a mobile support unit for people on the streets. So they can see a dentist, they can receive mental health support, they can get their hair cut. So it's all about bringing support to people instead of expecting them to come and receive support.
I love that. Sometimes people don't always connect with some projects, I should say, don't always connect with people that they're meant to help. And there's always a risk that community initiatives can feel disconnected. How do you make sure that these initiatives are truly inclusive?
I think for us, again, it's about not seeing a race as a one-off thing that we're delivering. It's about being really purpose-driven in the way that we approach our strategy. They are long-term initiatives, not one-offs. But we want to co-create those with the people that we're benefiting. So for me, the first step is listening and working very closely with the communities around the world that we're delivering our races in. We have amazing local contacts in most of the countries that we race in who really help us identify groups around our races, who we can work with and co-create with. So I think that's a fundamental aspect. We're not coming in and assuming what that support should look like, but we're asking them what they need and working out how we can kind of come together to do that with what we have here at Formula E.
So sort of following on from that, what would you say some of the sort of biggest challenges or barriers that stop people, especially young people or those from disadvantaged backgrounds, from getting into motorsport, whether it's engineering, whether it's media, whether it's anything really? What would you say is, I guess, the most notable ones that you've come across?
Yeah, this is something I think about quite often, actually, because I grew up in Scotland and the sports around me were rugby, football. Nobody around me was really talking about motorsport. So I think the biggest barrier that at least I've encountered, and I know speaking to quite a lot of my colleagues and women in particular, they've encountered, is perception. And that is that people just, if you don't, grow up with motorsport or watching motorsport, you really don't have a grasp of what the industry involves. And to me, it was something completely foreign. I didn't really know what happened in motorsport. I'd never seen a race. So the concept of exploring careers in motorsport was like completely behind a curtain. Like I didn't even know that was there. And I guess I'm really lucky that, I was able to get into this job. And now I find that it's such a vibrant and interesting industry with so many amazing opportunities. But unless you're aware that that is there and you're aware that there are some amazing role models who are there to kind of support you throughout, I don't think people will really consider it as a space for them. So perception.
So obviously you mentioned you go into schools and run programs sort of like that. Is there any way of reaching, say, older groups who, say, for example, grew up in Scotland and didn't know that they had access to these potential things?
Yeah, well, some of our, so Driving Force, for example, we obviously have the live school workshops which happen in race weeks, but we've just hit engaging over 50,000 young people in the UK, like across the entire country, but also in Saudi Arabia and the US. And that is through the teacher lesson plans. So we've really found that teachers are resonating with this idea of motorsport being, I guess, a metaphor for some of the topics that they're teaching. We know that careers of the future are going to involve green skills, and there's going to be an enhanced focus on STEM given how much technology is, around us in our lives. And young people need to, I guess, understand that those topics are not, hugely inaccessible or hugely complex. And I think by approaching those topics with the kind of, I guess, outcomes-based lens, it really makes those topics come to life for young people and understand that engineering isn't just, working on parts or, the technical side, but it's about the outcomes that you can create through engineering that can deliver amazing outcomes for people, communities, the planet. And for me, that's the exciting part about that program.
Yeah. You mentioned role models who are inspiring both this generation and generations to come. Who is someone that has inspired you or still does inspire you?
It's really hard to think of one person. I think again, working in telecommunications before I came here, that was, my first professional job. And I was really lucky to have some amazing female managers and mentors and really strong women who operated in an industry that, a bit like motorsport, still isn't quite there in terms of representation. And then in motorsport, I think I was welcomed so warmly when I came in. And my manager, Julia, is an incredible inspiration to so many women in the business. But I also really love the group of women who work on FIA Girls on Track. I think we're all like in it together to, make the program as amazing it can be. So yeah, I think not one, but, so many women that I've worked with.
Yeah, absolutely. They do say it does take a village to support you. Have you seen any shifts in the culture at Formula E or wider industry that makes this space more diverse in terms of leadership and collaboration?
Yeah, I think it's interesting thinking about Formula E in particular because we actually have a 50-50, if not even a slightly larger percentage of women in the championship organization itself. So that's from our executive team down, which is very unique in motorsport. I think we're very lucky that that is the case. And I think that's definitely, reflected in the culture. So it's a little bit hard for me to say shifts because I feel like that has always been present since I joined Formula E a year and a half ago. But I would definitely say since we hosted the all-women's test at the start of this season in Madrid, it's felt like there is a real momentum when it comes to not just, creating the cultural conditions for gender equality to thrive, but I guess also, walking the walk and delivering really tangible steps that are supporting that representation at the highest level, which is obviously drivers on the grid.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I think even, other industries outside of motorsports, you don't tend to see that gender split from the executive level down. So that is something I would say is unique to Formula E and really exciting. And I hope that's able to transcend across every industry. Really.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And I hope that people at the race here today can kind of feel that as well in the way that we show up as an event and a space for them. I really hope that that's what people coming here today take away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that there are lots of young people here today, and adults too, who might be curious or want a role within motorsports. Are there any other groups or projects that you admire that are doing some great things within the space that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there's an amazing project that we've worked with for a couple of years now in Mexico City, Tecnolochicas. It's a fantastic name. Yeah. And we collaborate them on FIA Girls on Track. And they now have a sibling organization too called Techno Ready. And they are basically really driving kind of year-round engagement in STEM topics in Mexico, which is incredible. But I actually see a real similarity with the way that they approach their work with you guys at Driven by Us. And that is a real kind of grassroots, community-led feeling. And for me, the initiatives that stand out and I guess really make a difference is where you create that sense of belonging for young people. And I think yesterday it was so amazing seeing the group that you brought to track for Inspiration Hour, and it just felt like such a warm community. So I think anywhere where you're able to foster that sense of belonging within young people and I guess give them these experiences at perhaps foreign places like a racetrack, but know that they have people around them is the key to making sure that they stay in those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have some members of our community here today, right at the front. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed yesterday's activation. Raffy, what's some advice that you would give to your younger self?
Well, it's really quite difficult to think about that because I do, I feel like the journey I've taken has got me to a place that I'm really happy with. So I don't know if I would change much, but I'd maybe tell myself to be a little bit more bold with grasping opportunities. I think there are so many amazing opportunities and people can be a little bit reluctant to put themselves forward for things. So I would just say eat up all the opportunities. They're there for you to make the most of. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Really, really back yourself.
Yeah, great. Some great advice. Thank you.
So moving on from looking at the past, looking at the future, if you're looking at 3 to 5 years ahead from where we are now, what does real progress look like to you?
I think for me, the most obvious one is women on that starting grid when the lights go green. It is the most obvious piece of inequality that still exists in our industry. I think the way that barriers are being dismantled quite quickly I think 3 to 5 years is pretty achievable for us to see that.
Is there anything further, say, for example, 10, 20 years that you wouldn't necessarily personally be involved in, but that you would like to see happen?
I mean, I would maybe say like teams that are, truly representative of the places that we race. At Formula E, we obviously race across pretty much all of the continents. But for a lot of people in some of those countries which are further away and, teams or championships aren't based there, it could be quite hard for them to get their foot in the door. And say you're a young person in Jakarta, I don't know what getting a job in motorsport would look like for that. So I think seeing the representation of our global footprint where we race within the paddock and within the roles that are behind the scenes would be amazing. And it would be amazing to think that, a young person who came to our community tour in Sao Paulo or in Mexico was able to, get a job in Formula E in that time zone.
Perfect. Thank you. We're going to go through into some quick fire round questions. First question from me is, what is your favorite or fondest motorsport memory?
Oh, I think it's probably my first ever race. So bit of a caveat, I hadn't ever watched a race before I joined Formula E. I'd seen little bits, but I'd not watched a full one. So my first race was our race in Diriyah last season. And I didn't really know what to expect, but our races in Saudi are really quite spectacular because they're a night race. We had an amazing drone show. So yeah, it was completely eye-opening seeing that first race.
Yeah. First one from me. Dream racetrack to visit.
So I don't think it doesn't exist, but being from Scotland, being from Edinburgh, I've always thought that, I don't know if either of you have been to Edinburgh.
I went to uni in Edinburgh.
So yeah. So Arthur's Seat, it's obviously like a huge extinct volcano in like the middle of the city, but it's got a really nice kind of like road at the bottom of it. It'd be so cool to see Formula E cars racing around this like old extinct volcano. I've always thought that would be amazing.
That would be really
probably quite a bit of work to make that happen. I don't know how how open Edinburgh Council would be to that.
We'll work on it. It'll be fine.
Question I had is electric car or electric bike?
So I can't drive, so it's going to have to be a bike. But I do love a line bike, and I always like to listen to Speed Drive by Charlie XCX when I'm on my line bike, because it maybe makes me feel like I am in a car when really I'm just on a little green bike.
You are a racer. You're in Tour de France going on there.
Yeah.
3 words that you would use to describe your job.
Global, fast-paced, and purposeful.
Love that.
Or is that 4? I think 4.
We'll hyphenate it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, perfect.
If you could swap roles with anyone at all, that could be within motorsport or outside of motorsport, who would it be?
I think it would have to be a driver, because I can't drive. I have no idea what that would feel like. But I do love speed, so I feel like, I'd love to drive one of the cars one day.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
If you had to pick a number to put on your race car, what number would you choose?
Good question.
Well, 28. It's my birthday. But I feel like it looks nice. Like it's a nice looking number. Nice and like round. You've got curves in an 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So just to round up, we always end our interviews with a question. So what is one question that you'd like to ask a future guest without knowing who they are, what series they work in, what their background is? What would you like to ask them?
I think I'd flip it a little bit and ask them what they would like to see Formula E do to truly shift the dial. We obviously see ourselves as a challenger in this industry, but I'd be really interested to understand from other people what that would look like from their eyes, like one thing that Formula E could do. Yeah.
Good question.
So we'll get back to you with that answer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Raffy, thank you so much for this incredible, inspiring conversation. Formula E and the work you do is continuing to make such a great impact both on track and off track. So we appreciate your time today.
And thank you to everyone else for listening. Thank you for joining us here live at the London Formula E-Prix.